Going through a divorce or about to, Renee Rebelo of Life Coach Financial is a certified divorce financial analyst as well as being a personal financial planner.
Right.
And you say that there are things like when you're just about, okay, we're not going to be together anymore, what's the first step you should do?
Yeah, so a lot of people will decide, hey, you know what? Love you, can't live with you. We need to part ways. And then it's like, okay, now what do we do? So a lot of people just assume you need to call a lawyer right away. However, if things are amicable, you can actually utilize other ways. So you can use a mediator or work on doing things through a certified financial divorce analyst like myself. And so the first thing you want to do is gather all your financials, right? So you want to make sure that you have all your statements, you know, you want to get an actual value of your house that you both agree on, and start getting all those financials together, your income taxes and everything. And then you can, you know, sit down with a mediator, or if you need to go the route of a lawyer, then you would go with a lawyer. But you would also incorporate someone like me into the equation, because as a financial expert, I'm able to review all the financials and look at things that possibly could be missed, because I see a lot of things being missed in separation agreements and divorces. One of the biggest questions that comes into my office is about spousal support, right? So a lot of people are like, well, you know, there's a calculation and there is software for that lawyers and mediators will utilize. However, there's tax implications that come with it too. So it's not, you know, a lot of people have the choice of either a lump sum, right, instead of paying monthly for however many years, depending on how long you were together, or whether you take the monthly income, depending on the couple and the financial ramifications. So a lot of times, some of the decisions regarding a divorce are not as clear as 50-50. There is a lot of things that go into play with regards to how long they've been together, assets they brought into the marriage, inheritance, if someone had an inheritance.
Yeah, you gave a great example of this, so talk about that.
Yeah, so with an inheritance, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I got to give half to my ex, so I'm not going anywhere. However, if that money was given to you and you put it in a separate bank account where your spouse was not named, that now falls outside of the matrimonial assets. So unless it's put towards the house or in a joint bank account, then it's not part of the matrimonial assets. So, you know, there's little things that people can do to protect themselves, and nobody ever goes into a marriage or a relationship to move in together and think, oh, when this ends,
yes,
you know, this usually comes as a surprise. Normally one party is more surprised than the other, and you know, it's kind of like, I'm in shock, we got to split this all up, this sounds really complicated and overwhelming, where do we begin, what do we do?
Right. You mentioned things too, like personal credit card rewards or,
yes,
or air miles.
Yes, so a lot of times things that get forgotten, because what will happen is, even if you utilize a lawyer, people will come in to me with their net family property statement and say, okay, this is what the lawyers are presenting. Can you give me your financial expertise on this? And I'll be like, well, what about the Aeroplan points or the credit card points that they get? Or, you know, I had a client that was a pilot. He had flight perks, you know, and now the family and the wife wasn't getting the flight perks because they were splitting up. So these are things that sometimes get forgotten. Or what about tax credits that they might have been able to claim? You know, so these are things that sometimes get overlooked.
Pensions.
Canada pension, there's credit splitting, and then there's also, yes, the pension. A lot of people believe that, you know, if you're going to split up and you have a pension, my first word of advice is call the pension people and get that valuation immediately, because it takes about 8 weeks to 12 weeks to get that valuation. However, you can transfer it and roll over through a spousal rollover for a marital breakdown. So it's not a taxable thing to either party. So there's not just, you know, how much am I getting, but it's the financial implications of splitting up the matrimonial assets and finding out what's important. So if it's an amicable divorce, what's important to you? Do you want to keep the cottage? Do you want the rental? Do you want our house? Where are the kids going to go? What's the best option for the least financial impact? And that's where I come into play.
Okay, you're not looking at the marital stuff, you're looking at strictly the financial.
So I give no legal advice, I am not a lawyer, but I can look at the financials and give advice on that.
Okay, awesome. Some great things to think about here. Not that I'm thinking.
But you know who to call.
No. We'll get your links up on our website at chch.com. Thanks very much, Renee.
Thank you.